So it's interesting, right?
True.
So speaking of which, apart from this, having like a positive outlook on all these issues and stuff, what were some of the lessons, some of the other lessons that you learned, and then just your way of overcoming these situations, right? So as to go into future situations with a better mindset, or just just deal with the situation better. Yeah.
I mean, one of the first thing I really learned, especially with Malaysians in general, was humility.
Okay.
Allah, they are very humble. I
Okay.
mean, even you tend to meet high level officials like ministers and or the speakers at the National Assembly or the Parliament, and the way they carry themselves, the way they mingle around, the way they take things lightly, the cars he drives, how he eats. I was observing all of that. It's not because he's a minister he forgot about his culture. I just remember I saw a minister once. He was eating with us and he just decided to wash his hands, eat his rice with his hands, and it was normal. No protocol. Everything is simple. So for me, this is something very. Of course, my parents have always preached to us since from childhood about humility, but it was good to see it from the Asian perspective, especially Malaysia, because that's where we were. So for me, that was something I really learned in Malaysia was humility and patience. Like I said, was this it was like, wow, you have to be patient, because back home we were not trained to do so. Everyone is in a rush, everyone is shouting, is screaming. You know how it gets. Especially when you're in traffic or the day is not going well and you broke all that kind of stuff. You go crazy. So
compounding problems and just problem of
I learned that. And of course, I did learn how to make a lot of compromise because, like I mentioned earlier, we were mingling with a lot of foreigners. So sometimes I had to understand my Arab brothers. I had to deal with my Asian brothers. I had to deal with my own African brothers and Europeans. So this taught me a lot of lesson, and I think it even made me more mature because if from the first year of my uni, I was already program manager of big events. So that was from my second semester. And that's because I decided to mingle, to learn, and create that balance between my way of seeing things and how others, see things. So, I created that space where I can I can compromise. I can say, okay, yeah, he might come from this background. It's cool for them. For me, it's not cool, but still, let me try and understand his perspective and see if we can work it out. So I think in terms of humility and being patient and finding a compromise, I learned it a lot being in Malaysia.
Okay, now that's a beautiful lesson to learn. Just accepting differences and just recognizing that. I come from a particular background with a set of moral values, perhaps just a set of notions of like good and bad, or right or wrong, or respectful and disrespectful, and then you come to other people's cultures. You witness it, really. You get to live in other people's cultures, and you can choose to integrate or not, right? But having chosen to integrate, you come to understand that the dynamics is different, right? Where what might be perceived as good in your own culture might be very bad, perhaps in someone else's culture and stuff like that, But you learn to fine tune it accordingly. So you become like a global citizen in the true sense of the word, So I think that is just a very beautiful lesson that you have framed really nicely, right? So I think the final question over here is, right? So you're this African, right? African student who has lived abroad. You spent some time abroad. You've garnered the experience, or let's say vast experience, or some experience in a particular field of knowledge, and you've acquired some degrees, right? You said your degree was in political science, right? And then you went on to pursue your postgraduate studies in the field of international relations and diplomacy, yes? Right, so you have all these degrees with you, and now you want to go back to the continent, right? Wherever it be, whether it's Cameroon, Nigeria, Guinea, Ghana, or some part in Ethiopia, perhaps, wherever it might be in the continent, and you want to contribute um, to this continent, right, or to this country in this continent, right, to a particular country in this continent, right. The question is there a place for what I would refer to as neo-Africans, right? These are Africans who have lived abroad. They've spent quite some time from their lives abroad, right, outside of the continent. They perhaps are not familiar with the ground, but they want to go back and they really have this passion to contribute in developing the continent, right? The question is, what is your advice? What is your message to someone like that? Someone who has really spent time outside of the continent. They want to get back to the continent because they're from it. They want to contribute because perhaps their mom or dad, or maybe even both, are from this continent, but they don't know where to start, and they feel like, well, if I go back, I'm not going to be accepted as a person of the land. So what is your advice or your message to someone like that?
First and foremost,
yeah,
each and everyone has their place, no matter how many years they spend outside. Home remains home. So
okay.
one of the thing is, many Africans, especially at the diaspora, they are unfortunately detached from their history, from their hometown. I mean, okay, some people did move after they spent so many years in the continent and in search of greener pastures. They had to move out. But I'm speaking more to those who have never actually been home, those people who are just like you, for example, we never really got the chance to grow up in the motherland. We don't know the challenges that most people face, but I guess you still have an idea, how it feels, because of course you have parents, you have family members who are from there who talks about it, and I'm sure once in a while you go visit family. So for me is there is always something to do back home. When I left Malaysia, actually, I wasn't looking forward to go back to Cameroon. I mean, like I remember I had a scholarship to study in South Africa, and the plan was to go to Cameroon, get my visa, and then move to South Africa for my master's. But Allah knows how He does His things. I went to Cameroon. They launched the national exam for diplomacy. Meantime, South African embassy couldn't grant me visa. They had some issues back then, and I got enrolled into my diplomatic school after I passed the national exam. So everything changed, and for me, it was a shock for me. Why? Because I spent 5 years in Malaysia, and I got comfortable. I got comfortable with the way things were. Everything was just easy for us there. We had access to electricity, running water. Things were easy. You take the public transportation. Everything is well designed. I can take the train from here to here, and everything is well planned, and it's also the timing is so good. And so when I went back, it was a bit of I was a bit lost, like a couple of months, because I was trying to reconnect back. I started complaining about the status quo. Like, why is this? In Malaysia it was like this. Why? And then out of the blue, sorry, I noticed that, why am I even complaining, man? I need to just do something or just readjust. I was here before. I grew up here. Why am I acting so strange? Why am I acting so surprised? Okay, things may not be perfect, but still, you shouldn't be sitting around, roaming around, just complaining. And that's one of the problems we're facing, especially the young people in Africa, be those who are in the country and those who are outside. We just keep complaining just about everything. Constant complaining. We don't just meditate. We don't sit down. We don't think. So for me, as soon as I went back, I told you, a couple of months, I was a bit confused because I was missing my life in Malaysia. I remember how I used to MC, how things were easy. Everything was easy, But in my new school, I wasn't the MC because they were speaking French. And even after my first year that I started being the MC of the school, because like I told you, there was a drastic change that happened. One day I just sat down. I was like, what is happening, man? This is not me. I've always had that fighting spirit, that lion strength, because I'm a Leo, by the way. So I've
Okay.
always felt like a lion. I
Uh-huh.
gotta be the best. I have to be the beast. So
Okay.
I started thinking, what can I do, and that's how ideas started coming up. I was like, yeah, why don't I just try a new business or something creative? So that's how I
Mhm.
started my agricultural projects. I started,
Wonderful.
I,
Okay.
I had some money, then I invested in a chicken poultry, kind of
Okay.
farming, poultry farming, of course. Um,
Awesome. Okay.
and I started to adapt. I stopped complaining. I just started to adapt, and I
Yeah.
started using the experience that I got from Malaysia,
Mm.
or even if it's from Nigeria anyway. I started now trying to adapt it to the social reality of
Okay.
Cameroon. Because one thing, the diaspora, or most of us who stayed abroad, what we don't
Yeah.
understand is that we think we can just export a model of development into a system. No, it
Okay.
may not work for that system because our social realities are different. That's
Right.
why
Yeah.
sometimes there's a debate going on right now among scholars regarding democracy. Some people are like,
Mm.
the Western type of democracy is
Mm.
not suitable for
Okay.
the African countries. People are arguing
Okay.
about that because it doesn't
Okay.
reflect our social realities. And even,
Okay.
before colonization, we were like we were divided into kingdoms. We had like a
Okay.
proper, traditional, well-established,
Mhm.
kingdom that was, governing back then.
Okay.
So there is that problem, and also the problem that we are facing is there's this intergenerational clash we have, because
Okay.
most of the people who are governing us, they are of a, different time, different era.
Mm.
Us, we are from the digital generation.
Mm.
Everything is
Okay.
fast, everything is quick. So there's
Mm.
that class, and people really need to understand that uh, we need to create a balance between
Okay.
us and those who are governing us, because the recurrent challenge in Africa is that most of the youth have lost. There's this distrust, sorry, between
Okay.
the youth and government institutions. This is
Okay.
something we need to build back. Of course, I hear some people telling me, man, I don't want to go waste my time, do some projects there. I know
Mhm.
it's full of corruption. Why?
Mhm.
I'm like, bro, tomorrow you're the one who will be governing, not them.
Yeah. Mm.
Everyone has his or her time. You need to think of a plan of action. You need to think of something you can do while you're out
Okay.
there. I'm not saying that everyone should
Mm.
abandon whatever he
Yeah.
or she is doing out there and just go to
Okay.
home and just go back to
Mm.
Africa. No, I
Okay.
never say that, because even from outside you can help Africa. Even from
Absolutely.
outside, you can be of great value, great asset. So for me, is we need to understand the social realities, how the system works. You need to
Okay.
adapt really quick. Yes, it's not perfect, but that's how it's gonna work. And for me, my advice to those out there is, no matter what challenges we're facing right now, we
Mm.
need to have a purpose. We need to
Okay.
uh, read, how they say, we need to understand our history. Most of us don't do research. We
Mm.
don't know where we're from. We think we know where we're from, but most of us, I'm sure, we know our history from the
Okay.
time, from 1960s, when we got independence. No, we
Okay.
really need to understand our history, where we came
Absolutely.
from, how it was, how it worked, what happened, what went wrong. And we need to get out of that comfort zone, because many of us who go out there, we get used to life out there. Everything is
Yeah.
so simple. Yeah,
Mm.
everything. There is electricity,
Mm.
water, system is well organized. So you're just like,
Absolutely.
I don't want that headache. But
Okay.
we need a purpose, because when you have a purpose, you will have a roadmap, and that roadmap is creating opportunities for other people.
Okay.
People want to lead. If you want to lead, you lead by leading others.
Mm.
So we must work together. We need to now work across different generations. We need to digitalize our traditional bureaucratic institutions. co-design tables of decision-making policies, co-create solutions between us and the diaspora. For me, the diaspora that we need to reconnect with our people, do things. Yeah, it's not easy. Nothing is easy, man. Look at the American history, man. They went through the black people went through slavery, and even until this day, we're in 2021, they are still fighting for their rights. So nothing comes easy, man. Look at the different stages of struggle they went through, and this shows how much we have to keep fighting. We have to keep fighting for what's right for us, so that we can go for it. We should. I think the comfort zone is the issue. It's something that enslaves us. We don't know, but it chokes us, and we become so relaxed, and we just don't want to do anything, and then selfishness comes. But for me, you have talent, for example, Mohammed. You're very innovative. You have creativity. Think you can do something. Some people are not talented. Okay. I mean, not that some people are not talented. Some people are not aware that they're very talented. They're not exploring it. But for those who are exploring it, we can still make a change, because Africa, mashallah, it's not like I keep hearing slogans, we are the tomorrow. No, we have always been there. Way from the beginning of time until this very day, we've always been there. I don't know why people keep saying Africa, l'Afrique, like the future belongs to Africa. I'm like, whoa, we have always been, we're always there. Sorry, we're always, So where people like trying to create some slogans which are not actually true. So we have the resources.
Progress,
we have the resources, we have the manpower, we have the brilliant minds. We just need to sit down, meditate, and
to organize.
It doesn't have to be perfect. We can just do something little, and it will help people. Trust me, it does. It does.
Those are very, very profound stuff that you mentioned. But that's particularly that last point of doing what is within your capacity. Because a lot of well, I don't want to say a lot, but I know the people that I know of, right, that I've had conversations with and stuff. A lot of them, you would hear them saying stuff like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not the president of the country. I'm not I wasn't elected by the people, or I don't hold this position of power, that position of power. But then they keep on forgetting, really, that you as an individual, right, whether as a student, whether as an athlete, whether as a corporate, individual who works in the corporate industry and stuff like that, there is always something that you can do to contribute to the status quo, right, as you mentioned, right? But unfortunately, I hear a lot of complaints, right, of the person that we elected and stuff is not doing what we expected of them and stuff. It's like, okay, well, he's not doing his role, right? But that doesn't mean that you should start slacking, right? And this is in a sense a group project, right? Just because one partner, one individual in the group, one group member starts slacking doesn't mean that you need to start slacking and stuff, But I think that is a conversation that is not had, that needs to be had very much, You also mentioned the fact that, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll just add something later on.
Sure. You spoke about this form of resistance. You mentioned it in passing, right? I think it was a very important point that we need to highlight to, I would say, members of the diaspora, right, or the African expatriates really living abroad and stuff, right? There's always going to be this form of initial resistance. You want to go back home, you want to contribute, you come with all this energy. Someone like myself, all right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off here, and then we're going to develop this sector, and then we're going to go to that sector, and then we're going to speak to that person, and then 5-10 years the continent is developed. Right now we can sit down and we can enjoy our our luxury and 24/7 running water and electricity, and everything is going to be beautiful, right? But then a person newly goes back to the country, and they're instantly faced with this initial resistance of this skepticism towards their intentions and stuff, right? You want to make change, and everyone is doubting you and almost discouraging you, right? To the point where you yourself become discouraged, and you feel like, what? Maybe this change I'm trying to bring about is just unrealistic. So you become discouraged from wanting to effect change. and you just join the vicious cycle. Right? The people who constantly complain, they're not doing much. They perhaps even contribute to the downfall of the country, where they engage in acts of corruption and this and that and stuff like that. Obviously, you got, like you mentioned, you got to play by the games. You got to play by the rules, right? You need to you can't. What's the saying? I forgot the saying, but it's more of, you come to a community, then in order to really excel, right, you need to first learn the system and then work your way towards shaping it, in a sense, right? But you can't come and change the whole dynamics of what it is that you see. It's just not feasible. So yeah, these are just some of the points that I thought were very important to highlight. Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. What you said is genuinely true, because, like I tell you, this vicious circle is so bad. Because I'm just gonna take a simple example that I witnessed in 2018 when there was presidential elections in Cameroon. Many people talk about the governance and all that, and when the elections approach, when we went to register and all, we noticed that Cameroon has a population of 25 million, and out of that 25 million, only 6 million people registered to vote.
Okay.
But on the day of the election, only 3 million voted.
Wow.
So when I was talking to my friends, like, why do you guys, don't register? They said the same thing. It's the same system. We know this party is going to win. So why are you going for it? Then I'm like, then don't complain. Don't complain about the status quo. Don't complain about what the government is doing, because you're not even doing what is right. That is, you're not going for your civic rights. You're not. This is your civic rights. If you want to be part of the change, you start by registering. You are eligible to register and vote. How do you want to change the situation if you don't participate?
Absolutely.
So this vicious circle is something, and this is linked to the mindset. Like I told you, we're so distracted by so many things. Today, we have internet, we have social media platforms, but even the way we use these platforms or these tools of communication, it's for other purposes, things that don't help us move forward. You see people gossiping, people exposing private lives of other people. How does that help us? I see people spending massive amount of money on buying iPhones, expensive phones, wasting money for internet just to waste time, laughing, mocking, complaining. I'm like, that's not what the internet is for. The internet is for you to self-educate yourself with what is, equip your mindset with new things, discover things, then you can reach out. Man, there's so many things we could do with Instagram now. There's so many things we could do with Facebook, but everyone is into creating a buzz, because everyone is trying to be famous through buzz, like buzz. And I'm like, this is the issue, the mindset. We are so much. So, and we're clouded by what society says, clouded by the noise and everything. And you talked about development. I keep saying that for us to be developed, we don't need skyscrapers to say, okay, we are developed. No, there are other foundations, there are other basic things we need to consider ourselves like we're developed, or to consider that we're at least moving towards development. What we need right now is access to basic facilities. That is access to education, access to water, access to electricity. And even when we move from one place to another, we have like decent roads. But some people are
essentially the infrastructure, right?
Yeah, the infrastructure. We don't need skyscrapers to be developed. It's even against our way of living, because we're used to living in houses and it's spacious and but skyscrapers is not into our organization. Okay, we'll try, but honestly speaking, it doesn't reflect our social reality. So for me, those who are out there, I'm not telling people just to go back and do something for the continent. If you have an action plan, if you have a strategy, work on it. It could take years, it could take time, but work on something. Just don't sit there and say, okay, since the system is the way it is, I don't care. I'm just going to focus on my family. For me, I think that's being selfish. If you have the
Absolutely.
opportunity to make a change, then do it. If you don't, then I understand. But if you really do, try your best.